I am Luzbel, also known as Luzbel or Luzbelheim. I've been speedrunning Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VIII and Final Fantasy IX since 2014. I've been the best at it. For years I've been beating every speedrunner that tried to defeat me, or that tried to claim that they were better than me. There was some lore behind every world record I did. Some story, some beef, some drama, some new runner trying to beat my times. And that's what I'm going to share. The story behind every world record I have ever done. This video has two purposes. The first one gathers all my world records in a single place, so all this information never gets lost. The second one serves as a reminder for the old runners, and the new ones, that I have been, I am, and I will be the best Final Fantasy VII, VIII and IX speedrunner ever in the history of speedrunning. My first world record. I was running the game for 2 or 3 months. For me everything was new. I didn't know how to do my own notes, I didn't know how to learn a speedrun, I didn't know what was the efficient process to learn it, etc. The fact is that I was having a lot of fun while learning and running it. It was something new for me. Of course I was running the PC version, which was released just a few months before this run. I didn't have a console and I didn't know what kind of devices I needed to stream from a console. That's why I decided to start with the PC version. At that time, early 2014, the world record holder was Yester1610, a runner that nowadays is still active in the community, at least on Discord and chats. This runner was ahead of its time in terms of execution. His menuing was really fast, his mashing was really fast, and his movement was pretty good. Basically, his gameplay from 2014 would fit perfectly nowadays due to how good he was at that time. I have to say that I never thought I would beat him. I was comparing his gameplay with mine and I was like, how the hell can I beat this guy? It was my first speedrun and I didn't know my potential because I never did anything like that before. Since I knew he was better than me, I decided to start practicing the game besides having fun with the run, and somehow I reached a level that allowed me to beat him and get my first world record. I was so happy that day. So damn happy.
Yes! 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 I did it!
I miss those days where getting a world record was the consequence of your hard work and practice instead of the consequence of RNG. Well, speed games evolve, I guess. It is what it is. The final conclusion for this run is that having Jester as my first rival taught me that if I wanted to achieve my goals in speedrunning, which was to have the world record in 7, 8 and 9 at the same time, then I needed to try as hard as possible to improve. It showed me how good I needed to be in order to be competitive. So thank you for that, Jester. About the run, nothing important to say. At that time we didn't have manipulation for Kistis or Salkar, or Fishfins or Ultimesi's party. We didn't even have manipulations for Karawit's code, besides the hard resetting. And in the run we were going to the tomb to check the code, because back in the days we didn't like to hard reset. Basically the route was a copy from a Japanese route which everyone was using. In the run I had 2 Fishfins fights, 4 Fishfins drop. In total, first try Kistis, 6th try Zalkar and Irwin in the final party against Ultimecia. At the end of these 2, I killed Cerberus, which had the potential to kill the run. After Zalkar, I was 1 minute and 30 seconds behind the world record, and I was tempted to restart because I thought it would be impossible to beat the world record. Somehow, I saved some time and I kept the pace, which surprised me. At the end I saved 3 minutes, and I was so nervous before Ultimecia. Notice how I full heal everyone before the fight and I put the strong junctions on Squall as a backup. Those were the good old strats. I improved the world record 2 more times. 21 days after my first world record, I improved the run by 2 minutes, just by playing better with 2-4 cards. That means 2 tries Kistis and 4 tries Zelkar. And then 20 days later I improved it again, with 1-2 cards. Same route, but with the difference that we accepted hard resetting as a default way to manipulate the Caraway's code. During that time there were some people running VIII PC, but no one was able to get close to the world record, and the only one that could, Jester, disappeared suddenly. So after this run I was decided to switch to console. My first world record on console, and one of my favorites. I will explain you some context about the VIII scene at the time. There was a battle between 2 runners, Crocogoat and Karakarandi. Just before I started running on console, they kept improving the world record a few times. I still remember Crocogoat's final time, an 8:37:38, which seemed an awesome time, but then Karakarn had an almost godlike run, ending with an 8:34:18. I remember that after that grinding from both runners, some people were saying that the world record would last for a long time and that it would be really tough to beat it. I didn't care about the world record. I was just happy for being able to run on console, and I was just checking how good or how bad I was compared to the console runners. At that time, the general mindset about VIII PC runners was that we weren't good at the game. We could say it was hard for some console runners to take us seriously. I didn't blame them, to be honest. I didn't even know if I was good or not, that's why I was excited to run on console. I finished a couple runs in like 15 days. An 8:45:47 the 21st of May of 2014 and an 8:38:35 the 8th of June of 2014. I had some problems switching discs. I wasn't used to do that on PC, but I was feeling confident in my ability, even though I was still 4 minutes behind the world record. I remember when I finished the 8:38, Karakan said that he was sure I was going to do the world record. I was very skeptical about that. I didn't even have the ambition to go for it. I was just enjoying the runs. But he was right. 7 days after he said that, and 25 days after my first console run, I did the world record. About the run had everything you could ask in an VIII run at that time, considering we still didn't have any kind of manipulation or step count. It had 5 fish fins dropped in 2 fights, it had 1-1 cards,
1-1. 1-1. 1-1, mate. 1-1. 1-1.
it had first try valve minigame, which was rare at that time, and it had Irving against Ultimacy. All that good RNG with good movement, menuing and mashing made the A31-32 possible. A godlike time, considering that the A34 was already insane. I wasn't expecting to do the world record that fast, so I was a little bit lost about what to do next, because there was nothing else to improve on console. I wanted to keep playing VIII, so I decided to return to PC. Sadly, there is no bot from this run, so I will put some video of my Zell cosplay I did in March of 2014. I have the bot on Twitch, but there is always an error and it doesn't load, so I guess it's corrupted. Well, before switching to console, the PC world record was 7:39:22. After getting the world record on console, I decided to do PC again, and I improved it by 3 minutes and 23 seconds. Which was huge. I think that was the moment where I realized the power up I was having and how much I improved in a short amount of time. I started to play way better, more optimized, faster, etc. Even though I thought I was already fast. I never stopped practicing, and I guess that's why I was able to keep improving the times. The run used the same strategies as the previous ones. It was a 1-4 cards with an average disc 1, but the rest was pretty much perfect. After getting this run, I knew both times console and PC were optimized, and after spending around 6 months in FF8, I decided to take a rest before my next project, which was FF9. My first world record in FF9. I took 2 months of vacation from speedrunning and joined again in August. My goal was to get the world record in 7, 8 and 9, and 8 was already done, so I decided to jump to FF9. The FF9 world record was a 9:08:06 by Caracarn, and no one seemed to be able to beat it. In fact, that world record was going to be almost 2 years old when I joined. I didn't talk about Caracarn before, but to put it in context, he was the king of Final Fantasy at that time. He was running multiple Final Fantasies, American and Japanese versions, and a lot of people looked at him as the reference of Final Fantasy speedrunning, at least in the games he played. For me, he was kind of my idol. I wanted to be like him. Yes, I was his fanboy. The Final Fantasy IX community was curious about how well I could do there. It was the first time where people started to have serious expectations about me, and I was also excited to test myself and improve in a new game. I took some notes and I was that excited about running FF9 that I did my first run without practicing at all. It was an awful run that ended in 11 hours and a half. Around 2 or 3 days later, the 17th of August of 2014, I did a 9:36:02. 2 months after, I did the world record. When I did it, I felt that something wasn't right. I felt that I needed to grind it more because I was still a noob. Or at least that's how I felt. At the same time, I reached my goal, which was the world record, and after thinking about it, I decided to rest a few months more before returning to FF8 PC. About the run, it was the same scenario as FF8. We just copied the Japanese strats that existed at the time. It was a very unoptimized route compared to the current one in 2022, but it was what we had, and it worked well. The difference between my run and Caracarn's world record was that I skipped the zombie wheel strat, which saved around 3 minutes and a half. The zombie wheel strat is a strat where you force an encounter in the world map and you eat a zombie wheel with Quina, learning death level 5. And with that you can one-shot the enemies in Desert Palace. And Desert Palace is a place where you don't have Zidane in the party, so you can't use the command flee. That is why death level 5 is useful. It's an archaic strat that was already archaic in 2014, hence why I skipped it.
Kill him, please. Yes. Yes! 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 Ooh! Yes! Yes, yes, yes!
Anyways, a fun fact is that when I did the 9:36, I promised Death Tom, a friend and an old runner of Final Fantasy, that I was sure I could do the world record. He was like, no way, how are you going to beat Caracarn? But I was really confident about it. When I got the world record, he laughed and made me an amazing catchy song, which I will put in the description. And for those who already know the song, his skepticism when I promised the world record to him is why in the lyrics he says,
how did you beat Caracarno? I thought it was impossible, mate. Caracarno, you have lost.
After almost 5 months, I decided to return to FF8 PC. The reason was that Caracarn showed on stream how we could skip some encounters by walking in Laguna Dreams. Yes, it was the first time we had stepcon in FF8. It wasn't optimized, but definitely it skipped a few encounters. And that meant time save. I also discovered how to manipulate the party to get Irving always before Ultimecia. It required to save and hard reset the game, which was really fast on PC but really slow on console. I practiced more and I think that was the first time I played really good in a speedrun. Movement, menuing, mashing, everything was smooth and fast. That allowed me to save 6 minutes 38 seconds. Now that I think about it, saving that much time was insane, considering the previous world record was optimized, in quotes, or that's how I felt. After that, I wanted to keep grinding, but something in FF9 happened.
The run broke all expectations, and in Luzbel's words, 36 hours later, I got an 850.53, in what for me was the best run I've ever done. It was the perfect run and the perfect scenario, in the perfect moment.
My favorite world record and probably my best world record. For some people, this run is considered one of the best speedruns of the decade. As ThaRixer says in the video, it was the perfect run in the perfect scenario in the perfect moment. I recommend you to watch the video of Goose where ThaRixer analyzes the speedrun. I'll put the link in the description. Thank you Goose and ThaRixer, I really appreciate it. Well, I'm going to give you all the context. First, at that time, finishing the run below 9 hours was an achievement that seemed almost impossible for the community. My run, which was the world record, was a 904, and the next world records from other people were not sub 9 either. Breaking the sub 9 wall was something that everyone was looking for. After I did the 904.18 in October of 2014, a runner called Nev beat it the 19th of December with a 903.44. The problem was that he used a turbo controller, so it was considered kind of another category. There was some controversy about if turbos should be allowed in the same category or not. Meanwhile, a runner called Mr. Zanzik, a very good runner that runs a lot of Final Fantasies, was running FF9 on emulator. He was doing pretty good times considering the slow loading times of the emulator itself. He even had the world record in the emulator category with a 9:15.01. Some people in the Final Fantasy community were excited about Mr. Zanzik running on console. I remember reading stuff like Zanzik is going to destroy Luzbel when he switches to console, or Luzbel has no chance. It annoyed me a little bit, but at the same time I liked it. For me there was nothing wrong with competition and some trash talking. Well, the day came and Zanzik got a console and did a few attempts, and he showed he was really good and beat the world record the 9th of April of 2015 with a 902.48. Not gonna lie, he sounded pretty cocky at the end of the run, or that's what I felt. Of course it was all my interpretation and probably he wasn't cocky, but I just felt that way at that time, and that motivated me to go back to FF9 and try to beat him. The same day, when I was practicing the run a little bit, Death Tom, the same friend that made the song, accused Mr. Zanzik of using turbo in the run. Some drama happened where I was involved a little bit, and yes, it was a mistake from Death Tom, but all of that was just fuel for me. It was the first time that I wanted to do a world record just to beat another person's time. Probably it wasn't the healthiest mindset, but definitely motivated me at maximum levels. The conclusion is that 36 hours after Mr. Zanzik's run, I did the world record with an 8:50.53, beating his run by 11 minutes and 55 seconds. Not only breaking the sub 9 wall, but almost breaking the 850 wall.
Yes! Yes, mates! Yes! Bloody hell, mates! Yes! For you, Death mates, for you. And for all mates.
That run is that good that after 5 years, only 3 people were able to beat that time. As I said in other times, it's my favorite because how good it was at that time, because the lore of it, and because it happened at the perfect timing. The perfect run, in the perfect scenario, in the perfect moment. Sadly, there is no bot for this run. I lost it completely and it doesn't exist. So I will use again the Zell cosplay bot from 2014. 2 months later, I returned to VIII PC. The reason was because Card 7, an excellent runner, beat me the 1st of June of 2015 with a 7:25.16, previous world record being a 7:29.21. How did she save that much time if the wall record was already optimized? Well, she discovered that playing the game in French saved around 6 or 7 minutes. I was excited to improve it in French, so I tried to memorize the menuing again, learning the French words, and 11 days after her run, I did the world record with a 7:24:17. About the run, it used the same strat as the others, with the difference that we had a complete step count, and we had a manipulation for the cutaways code without resetting the game, which saved just 10 seconds on PC. Months later, I returned to FF8 console to beat the godlike run that I had 1 year ago with an 8:31:32. There were 3 reasons. First, I discovered how to get Kisty's card at the beginning of the game without any kind of RNG. That was huge because we didn't need to rely on RNG 1 hour into the run. Second, a new route that Kiru, an awesome Japanese runner, showed in his runs. His route was based on getting Kisty's card only, ignoring Zell card, which has a 10% chance to appear. That gets rid of an awful RNG segment, and with the strat of getting Kisty's at the beginning of the game, it meant that we didn't have any card RNG. Third, a new optimization of the route. Basically, El Body, another amazing runner, suggested me to get rid of killing Cerberus, because it lost more than it saved. He was right, and I implemented it in my runs. With those reasons, I was excited to return to FF8, and the solo Kisty's route seemed to have potential. I improved the world record fast with an 8:29:15. After that, I thought that it was time to finally achieve my goal of getting world record in 7, 8 and 9, so I decided to immediately learn FF7. Learning FF7 was not easy, and not for the run itself, but for the environment. Card 7 is a runner that since 2013 has been dominating FF7 speedruns, both categories any percent and no slots. The world record was a 7:28:08 done the 4th of January of 2015, and no one was even close to her. She was constantly running the game, optimizing the runs and improving the world records. I started taking notes and learning the game in November of 2015, after my FF8 world record. And although she was always kind with me and helped me whenever I needed, there were a few people laughing at me and at my first attempts, criticizing my poor gameplay and how I would never be able to beat card 7's times. I remember one person, known in the community, writing me in a serious tone while I was running that it was embarrassing that I was 7 minutes behind the world record in this one. Well, I understood them in a certain way, but at the same time it upset me a little bit, and that motivated me more to improve and practice. At the end, 2 months since I decided to start learning the game, thanks to that toxic in quotes environment, thanks to my effort and thanks to Miss Baker, an FF7 runner that helped me a lot in terms of run optimization, I did the world record with a 7:25:28.
Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Yes, my love. Yes, mate.
It was a very special moment, and one of the few times I wanted to cry after getting a world record. It was done! My goal! The dream I had when I discovered speedrunning. After 3 years, I finally achieved it. It was done. I had the FF7, FF8 and FF9 world records at the same time. The first person to do it and the only one. I was so damn happy. And now what? Well, I was satisfied already with what I achieved, so I just rested until I felt my world records were in danger. There was an amazing runner called Eisnev174. He had a big battle with card 7 for the FF7 NoSlots world record, and he finally won, beating card 7's time by 11 seconds. He showed that he was a really good runner. After that, he decided to learn FF8 and started to grind the console version. He started to get good times, and the 9th of February of 2016 got an 8:33.41. My world record was an 8:29.15. I felt the world record was in danger, so I jumped to FF8, and 2 days after his run I improved the world record with an 8:28.31. Same strats as always, Kistis only. I thought that time wasn't enough because I lost 2 minutes due to not getting Irvine against Ultimecia. I also felt the Kistis route had more potential, so I kept grinding for 1 month and finally I got a really good run. The problem about Kistis only was that it had more RNG because you use Squall's limit break in fights where you don't use it with Selkar. That means a Squall can do Rough Divide randomly and lose time. That's why I kept grinding until I got a pretty good run with an 8:26.07. I also discovered a way to track the RNG since the beginning of the game until the end, and by checking the last 4 draw points, I would know what party I would get for Ultimecia's fight. It didn't work well for something I discovered way later, and that was that once you draw from a draw point, after some steps the draw point recovers and that changes the RNG as well. Well, besides that, I was satisfied with the time, but suddenly ITNF 174 decided to grind the PC version. I guess ITNF 174 saw that console world record was going to be impossible, so he jumped to the PC version. He started to get good times again, and the 11th of April of 2016 he got a 7:25.33. My world record was 7:24.17. I felt the world record was in danger, so I did a few attempts on PC and 4 days later I improved it with a 7:22.09. I thought the time was pretty good, so I left, and he also gave up on FF8. I think he took it personally, the fact that I improved the world records of both categories when he grinded them. I guess that's one of the reasons why he hated me so much. I hope you don't take this personal, ITNF. I still think you are one of the best speedrunners the Final Fantasy community has ever had. Well, since I had the world records in 7, 8 and 9 on the NA version, it was time to try the JP version and compete against the Japanese runners. I always thought that splitting between languages and versions was weird, but at that time I didn't care. Japanese community had other rules, allowed turbo controller, different timing, etc. And it was exciting to be part of them. In the Japanese community there was a runner called Giru, and that runner was amazing. He was the only one that I could watch and think, he does stuff that I can't do. His menu speed was insane, his movement was very smooth, and overall he was a very consistent runner. He had the world record in Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy VIII, and I wanted to beat him. It was super exciting for me to have him as a rival. For this Final Fantasy VII world record, I had to practice a lot. It was kind of an eye-opening for me because he really made me surpass myself. The problem I have is that if I'm the best, then I don't improve anymore. I need to see someone doing something better than me to actually believe that that is possible. Otherwise, I don't think it's possible. Seeing someone better than me makes me want to copy him and surpass him, and that's exactly how I felt with Giru. I respect him a lot. He will always be the Japanese Luzbel, and I will always be the Spanish Giru. Anyways, the previous world record was a 7:42.17 done the 30th of October of 2015, and I did a 7:40.20, the 3rd of May of 2016. Two months later, I decided to improve the world record in FF9. Why? Because Giru showed a different route, discovered by Empu, and that was exciting. The route killed Tantarian, which is a powerful monster in this 2 that gives experience, gil, AP to learn abilities, and running shoes, which gives you auto haste. The downside was that it costed 4 minutes to kill the monster, but compared to the old strat that we always did, it was worth it. I got the Final Fantasy VII Japanese world record, so it was time for the FF8 Japanese world record. This time I was competing against Pingball, an excellent runner that discovered how to manipulate cell card. That was very huge for the run, because that meant that we would return to the cell card route again. He also presented an optimized way to track the RNG for Ultimesia's castle. Basically, instead of checking the draw points, he was checking Squall's movements in the FMB after Adele. That got rid of the problem of the draw point changing the RNG when it recovered. We had a short but intense fight for the world record. First, he beat Giru, the 2nd of October of 2016 with an 8:36.35, and 21 days later, I did the world record with an 8:35.38. The run was pretty decent but nothing spectacular. Pingball kept grinding and beat my time the 30th of October of 2016 with an 8:34.37. It was a really optimized run and definitely really hard to beat. I grinded it a lot and I did the world record 23 days after. The run was amazing. In fact, it was that good that now, in September of 2022, 6 years later, it's still the world record. After this run, I was again lost in what should I do. I had no incentive to do anything really. Yes, I could go for the FF9 JP world record, which I was running from time to time as a chill speedrun, but my time was already good enough. I think I was 2nd or 3rd place. And to be honest, I felt satisfied with what I did. I looked at my world records and I found something missing. It was a category that I didn't like at all, but something happened. The first world record in the NoSlots category. For those who don't know, NoSlots is an FF7 category which bans the use of slots. The case is limit break that one-shots the bosses. In my opinion, it is a pretty bad category that adds a lot of RNG, but that's another subject. The context is this. If you remember, I said before that Card 7 was the queen of FF7 between 2013 and 2016. The thing is, before I joined FF7 any percent, Aitnef174 already joined FF7 in the NoSlots category and had a big battle with her for the world record. Card 7 improved it, Aitnef improved it, Card 7 again improved it, and finally Aitnef beat her time by 11 seconds the 22nd of September of 2015 with a 7:37.34. An amazing run that was considered extremely hard to beat. If you remember, I said that after that, Aitnef switched to FF8 console and then FF8 PC, and that was when I improved the time so he couldn't beat me. I guess it was an accumulation of reasons, but after that he started to hate me exaggeratedly. Like, there was some drama also, and finally he and other people started to say on stream and chat that I wasn't skilled enough and that I was avoiding running NoSlots because it was the only category that required skill. Basically, he was very mad and some people were sharing his mindset. I never wanted to do NoSlots, and I recognize those comments upset me, but again, I found them funny and I wanted to test myself in a new category. The incentive was again to defeat other people rather than doing it for fun or for myself. For me, that reason was valid, so I decided to learn the category. It took me barely 1 month in total since I started learning to get the world record. The category definitely wasn't hard at all. In fact, I found it easier than the any percent route.
Oh man.
I took a break for 3-4 months before I returned to FF7. There was a new step count and some optimizations, and I felt I could improve the time more. So I decided to grind it until I had a nice run, with a 7:18:53, beating the previous world record by 6 minutes 35 seconds. Probably one of the best Final Fantasy VII runs ever done. A couple months later, I had another battle with Giru. I started grinding FF7 JP and beat my world record with a 7:39:59. My run was a 7:40:20. He kept grinding it until he had a godlike run the 25th of December of 2016 with a 7:37:46. An insane time that was really hard to beat. I was watching it and the way he was menuing and moving was crazy. I felt he was the only rival I had at that moment, so I got really excited about it and decided to grind FF7 JP again. I practiced and after around 1 month and a half of grinding, I finally beat his time with a 7:37:26. It was really tough, but I enjoyed that battle with him. After that, it was the first time that someone had the FF7 any%, FF7 NoSlots and FF7 JP world records at the same time. I didn't care to be honest, but it was a nice achievement. This world record was really satisfying and has a nice narrative also. First, a Japanese runner called Empu presented a new optimized route that was getting rid of Tantarian, the enemy that took 4 minutes to kill. Basically, the route was like the old route we used in 2014, but way more optimized, and it looked amazing. That was enough incentive for me to go back to FF9. But the fact is, yes, new drama appeared. At that time, there was a runner called Frowny that was grinding FF9 for a while, since December of 2015. He was an awesome runner, probably the best runner I've ever seen in FF9 besides Giru and Misuto, in terms of execution. He had some issues understanding what to do in case he had to use a backup. He would lose minutes for the simplest problems, but then he would execute a menu extremely fast. Well, for me he was an excellent opponent, and I was excited to compete against him. The drama appeared when he behaved like Anakin and went to the dark side once he tried a turbo controller. He started to say that turbo was the only real category, he started some beef with me, and we had a lot of drama regarding that. I respect him a lot though, and now that I look at it, the entire situation was kind of funny, but at that time it was serious drama between both of us. The 18th of March of 2017 he beat the world record with an 8:47:26, previous world record being 8:49:34. The difference is that he used a turbo controller for that, but he kept saying that he defeated me. I got really upset about it and I took it personal. Of course, with the toxic environment we had and with the beef we had, I was really focused and determined to get the world record back. I grinded it for around a month until finally I beat the time with an 8:45:27. I'm not gonna lie, it was a huge relief for me to beat his time. Even if his run wasn't really the world record, the drama between both of us was more important for me than the world record itself. You can see how I started to do pull-ups to release all the stress I had for the situation.
Yes! Tony! Tony!
I have to say it was toxic, but at the same time it added some sauce and lore to the community, which I appreciate. As I said, this was years ago. I respect Frowny a lot and I really hope he comes back to the scene. And now we enter one of my favorite parts, an event that is known as 3-5 or the 3 world records in 5 days. After that FF9 grinding, I decided to rest for a couple months. Then in November I checked my world records and I saw that Windows, an awesome FF8 PC runner, beat my FF8 PC world record the 8th of May of 2017 with a 721.49. Connor Cordell, another awesome FF8 runner that kept grinding and grinding until he beat my FF8 console world record the 26th of October of 2017 with an 824.37. And Miss Baker, the runner that helped me with my FF7 runs, decided to grind and beat my FF7 JP world record sometime in September or October with a 736.26, showing that he was extremely good at the game, which meant that it was going to be really hard to get the world record back. I decided to give it a try and get those world records back, starting with FF8 console. I got it in a couple attempts. I know I had time saved, but I didn't think I was going to get it that fast. The 10th of November of 2017 I did the world record in 8:22.43. I immediately jumped to FF8 PC the next day, and 2 days later I beat the world record with a 7:18.32. A godlike run at that time. I never touched FF8 PC again after that. With FF8 done, I practiced the menus and step count for FF7 the next day and did some attempts. The next day, I was able to beat the world record with a 7:35.12. Achievement done. I did all 3 world records in 5 days. But that wasn't the only achievement. When I started in speedrunning, my goal was to have the FF7, 8 and 9 NA world records at the same time, which I did in January of 2016. During my time in speedrunning, I improved the world records and made some new ones. After all, I checked my world records and I found that I had the FF1 and FF3 any percent world record, which they were kind of a meme, but they were competitive. Then I had the FF7 any percent world record, the FF7 NoSlots world record, FF7 any percent Japanese world record, FF8 any percent world record, FF8 any percent JP world record, FF8 any percent PC world record, and FF9 any percent world record. I had all those world records at the same time. That was even better than my first goal when I joined. And I felt really satisfied because not only that was an impressive achievement, but also I did competing against the best runners we ever had in the scene. Card7, Ashnef, Miss Baker, Giru for FF7, Connor Cordell, Giru, Pingball for FF8, Karakan, Frowny, and later Misuto, but I won't include him here of course, and many others of course. It had been a really tough path competing against all of them in a context where the skill and effort made the difference. Thank you all for being my opponents. I had a really good time sharing my time with all of you, and that's what matters. I felt really happy about that. I had nothing left to do or to achieve. Basically, I was ready to just become a casual player. The next world records that I've done were done just by the inertia of competition, but in reality I've never had again the ambition I had before achieving my goals. Anyways, let's continue. The war with Connor Cordell was still alive. He seemed to not get tired of grinding, and he kept doing it until he beat me the 17th of January of 2018 with an 8:21.33, an amazing time. At that point, I don't even remember what I was doing, but I decided to compete with him for the old times. I got a pretty good run the 26th of February of 2018 with an 8:20.25. I was tired of running this game, so I rested a few months before I returned. This was the most random world record. After months of not touching the game, I decided to do a DRS run that somehow was the world record because I got lucky. At that point the game was pure RNG, so I didn't feel that great to get the world record. Especially because I played awful and I knew I didn't deserve it. That's FF9 for you. a new skip was discovered called guard skip. That skip allows you to skip the entire second reactor and go instantly to the wall market, saving around 20 minutes. I don't know why I started to grind NoSlots, but I guess it was because Zeal beat my world record, which was a 7:34:46. Zeal was and is an excellent runner that started to grind FF7 when the new skip appeared. He had a really good execution and showed how consistent he was running RPGs. I have to say his first world record was awful and only beat my absolute world record because the skip. But of course he improved time later and became one of the best runners of the game. Anyways, the 1st of September of 2018 he beat the world record with a 7:29:03, and 5 days later he improved it with a 7:21:36. I grinded it a little bit and beat it with a 7:17:28, the 5th of October of 2018, which wasn't a good time, but I was fine with it since the category didn't motivate me. After a few weeks of rest, I decided to improve the Final Fantasy VII in Japanese time due to the new skip. Again, I wasn't especially motivated, but just for the sake of not having a very obsolete run, I decided to improve it. I only did 1 or 2 attempts, and the final time was a 7:12:47. Miss Baker decided to grind FF7 any % again due to the new skip. We had a small battle for the world record, where he beat my obsolete world record, I don't know when, with a 7:00:55, an amazing time. After Japanese, of course, I decided to grind the any %, and 2 weeks later I did the 6:59:56. For me, probably my best any % run in FF7. The run had awesome escapes, the best disc 1 at that time, and really good execution. The only bad part was the minute and a half lost at the end because Gatesy didn't have Fury, which meant that against Bizarro Sephiroth he didn't get the limit break. Awful time loss, but it was a sub 7, which was a nice achievement. The reason why I did this world record was mainly because I was bored, basically. Without any incentive, I went to my favorite chill speedrun, which was Final Fantasy IX. At that time, a runner called Misuto, which I mentioned before, was grinding the game. He was a godlike runner, and he is a godlike runner. His execution was incredible. The way he moved or did menus reminded myself of Giru. He had an 8:47:15 in December of 2018. And since I had nothing else to run, I decided to grind it a little bit. The 22nd of January of 2019, I improved it a little bit with an 8:43:21. As I imagined, Zeal kept grinding the category, and the 23rd of December of 2018, he beat my world record with a 7:15:51. I preferred to grind FF9, but since I improved the world record, I was like, let's go back to NoSlots and have fun with it. I practiced a little bit, and 2 weeks later I beat the world record with a 7:14:40. It wasn't perfect, but I was pretty satisfied with the run, so I decided to leave the category, even though I knew that Zeal would keep grinding it forever. At that time, I was basically chilling and becoming a casual player. Connor Cordell kept grinding FF8, and after a few months, he finally got the world record again with an 8:20:21, the 23rd of June of 2019. Even though I was trying to find some motivation, my mindset was like, okay, let's try to compete again. After 1 month of grinding, I beat the world record with an 8:20:05. Again, it wasn't perfect, but I felt satisfied. One of my favorite world records. Remember Misuto? He kept grinding FF9, and the 20th of September of 2020, he finished a totally godlike run, beating the world record with an 8:39:23. That was big. He broke the sub 8:40 wall. and beat my world record by almost 4 minutes, an insane run that I know it was going to be almost impossible to beat unless I grinded for months. To be honest, I didn't want to do it. I was already tired of all the grinding and the RNG, but at the same time Misuto reminded me of those times where I had to compete against godlike runners like Giru or Frowny, and that motivated me a lot. It made me think that maybe I could live that golden age again, and that's what I did. I practiced the run, I did a few attempts, and in less than 3 weeks it happened. I beat his world record by 10 seconds. I wasn't expecting to get the world record back that fast. The run was a total roller coaster of time saved and time lost, and also a roller coaster of emotions. At the end of the run, I cried.
Please, 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 please. Please, 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 God, please.
I think it has been the only run where I cried. I cried not because the world record itself, which was nice to get back of course, but because I knew that was the end for me. I was happy because I was able to experience those old emotions again, competing against Misuto. At the same time, I wasn't sad but emotional to know that the last glimpse of motivation for these games was going away. That was my last dance against one of the toughest opponents I've ever had in speedrunning. Thank you Misuto for that. At that point I hated FF8, mostly because it was pure RNG and it required hours of resets looking for the correct lag. I had a lot of thoughts about if maybe it was time to step aside instead of hating myself for doing something that I wasn't enjoying at all, especially after that FF9 world record that I got. I felt no motivation, but I forced myself to run FF8 again, just for the sake of breaking the sub 820 wall. After 2 or 3 weeks, I finally improved the world record with an 8:19:23. After that, it was the end. I retired from 7, 8 and 9. As I said, after that FF8 run in 2019, I retired from the competition. The thing is that I had some beef with one FF7 runner named Hype Ghost. He offered me 500 euros if I could get the FF7 any% world record in 2 days. I basically didn't touch the game for 2 years, and at that time the world record was 6:47 by 0. A new Cosmo Canyon skip appeared, but I thought I had a chance to do it. I accepted the challenge and spent the first day routing. I didn't find anything good, so I copied a very risky route that wasn't worth it to do. But since I didn't have time to waste, I went with it. Since it was a risky route, the day I had for attempts went really bad. I died a lot, and the only run that I finished was awful. I made a mistake in 4 Condor that costed me 2 minutes, finishing the run in 6:49. I failed the challenge, but it felt really good to see that even after 2 years without touching the game, I only needed 1 day to be able to get the world record. That incentivized me a little bit, and after 2 months of this challenge, I decided to get back the FF7 any% world record, which I did the 4th of September of 2021, with a 6:45:10. The funny thing was that 1 month later, those runs were obsolete because a member of the community named Kuma discovered a new glitch that allowed us to skip calm, which saved another 20 minutes. Once the skip was perfected by the community, I routed the any% category and grinded it a little bit, improving the world record with a 6:25:58. The day after, I did a Japanese run, improving the world record with a 6:19:41. And that's all. That has been the lore of Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VIII and Final Fantasy IX speedruns from my point of view. I hope you enjoyed my story. As a conclusion, I will give you some facts. As a fun fact, I also have the world record for beating Final Fantasy VII, VIII and 9 in a row with a 24 hours, 23 minutes, 42 seconds, played in June of 2020. I have been the first and the only person in the history of Final Fantasy VII, VIII and 9 speedrunning to have the world records in 7, 8 and 9 at the same time. I have been the first and the only person in the history of Final Fantasy VII, VIII and IX speedrunning to have the world records in 7 80% NoSlots and GP, 8 80% GP and PC, and 9 at the same time. Since I got my first world record the 6th of April of 2014, I always had a world record in a main category for 2,597 days, which is 7 years, 1 month, and 10 days. Thank you for watching, and thank you to every single person that watched my stream, that helped me, that supported me, or that interacted with me at any point of this amazing journey. It has been an experience that definitely changed my life. Thank you.